Good evening, children. During this hour of crisis, let us pray to God so that we can fight, we can combat the microbe that is being very fatal for our human society, and let us continue with our regular course of work in our own way. Today we will read the story, the singing lesson, and I will proceed with the explanation of the story. Let me introduce Catherine Mansfield to you, who was originally from New Zealand. However, she was internationally famous. Why? Because of her rebellious work. The postmodern or the modernist concept of writing novels, short stories, and poems. She was a very powerful writer, and she considered herself as a writer first and then a woman. She lived only for 34 years, but within this short span of her life, she created miracles in the history of English literature. What strikes us the most in her short stories especially is the complexity of her characters. It's not that her characters are very famous personalities. It's not that her characters are drawn from some lofty or some extraordinary psychological backgrounds. Yet, from the simple characters around us, a very next door neighbor kind of characters, she brings out the complexities that lies latent in every one of us. In our ordinary way of life, we all have a complex story to tell. The hidden psychological, emotional characteristics which differ, which creates a difference between each and every human being from another one. Catherine Mansfield unfolds several shades of her characters. At the same time, she allows the reader to guess something more. This is the beauty of modernist writers or postmodernist writers. They will allow the readers to think. They are not the omniscient third-person narrators who knows everything on earth. They are not like that. They will allow us, the readers, to think at the same time. You can differ with the author. You can differ with another person who is reading the story. You can have your own view about the entire story, the concept, the motives, and the characters of the stories. So let us begin with a singing lesson. The singing lesson is about a lady who was seen, at the beginning of the story, it was seen that she was frustrated in her love. Why? Because her lover called off the engagement for no good reason. See, today we are aware of the terms like commitment phobia. Maybe this lover was undergoing commitment phobia. So he has called off the engagement, and that has ruined the lady. What is the name of the lady? Miss Meadows. That has ruined the lady completely. The author has begun the story with medias res. What is medias res? It is a Latin word which means he begins the story from the middle of the action. The story is not so called once upon a time there was a king, not a kind of a story which has a proper etiquettes of a short story. The beginning, the middle, and the end. This story is not like that. It is a story which has medias res, means which begins with the middle of an action. This technique was associated with the epics. Whenever you go through an epic, you will find that it always begins with a crisis, and then there are flashbacks, and then there are the courses of action. Though it begins with in the middle of the action, and it is related to the epics, it is quite effectively employed in short stories as well, where the work needs to function within the restrictions of time and space. The short stories have restrictions of time and space. That means you cannot drag it as a novel for years and for maybe decades. You cannot run it like that. You have to go by certain space and certain time frame. The short stories gives you limited opportunity to describe things, to give an elaborate suggestion of anything that you are talking of. So, as a modernist fiction, the story employs the technique of an epic, of beginning from the middle of an action, and it is required for the brevity or the brief account which a short story generally delivers. So, the story begins with a crisis. It begins with a sad and very frustrating mood, with despair, cold, sharp despair. Sharp means almost biting. Emotionless, cold. And what is despair? Frustration, hopelessness. Buried in her heart like a wicked knife. Oh my God. Here is a simile. It is cold, it is sharp, it is as wicked as a knife. Knives are not always wicked. When are they wicked? When it is used quite cunningly. When it is used for backstabbing or stabbing all on a sudden without giving you an alarm. So something wrong has happened with this lady. She has been backstabbed or something like that. If not backstabbed, she has been given a sharp hit, sharp stab without any alarm or previous caution. So it is buried deep in her heart. Just see, without giving an exterior description of the person, not even the name, the author has gone into the emotional side of the character, which means she is going to explore the emotional and psychological folds of this lady. Buried down in her heart like a wicked knife, Miss Meadows, in cap and gown and carrying a little baton. I have given all the meanings. I will send you a PDF of all the meanings. Just go through them. What is a baton? A baton is a thick stick used by a conductor, not the bus conductor, okay? Music conductor. Used by a conductor to direct an orchestra or a choir. That means she is the music teacher and she has a baton with her to conduct the class. She is in cap and gown and she is carrying a little baton. Trod the cold corridors. See the alliteration over here. Cold corridors. So this kind of prose, expression of prose, is known as poetic prose. Although it is a prose, it has several poetic touches. And when you are speaking of something sorrowful, you need to be poetic. Though it is sorrow is very prosaic. What do you mean by prosaic? Do you know the meaning of prosaic? It is very practical. It's very pragmatic reality. It is hard reality. But when we are in sorrow, our emotional side becomes poetic. We face the reality, the hardcore reality, but inwardly we become poetic. So the poet has also used, see, at the first line, it is the repetition, despair, cold, sharp despair. And there is a simile, buried deep in her heart like a wicked knife. And then there is cold corridors. Children, do you think the corridors are really cold? Yes, maybe they are physically cold because the corridors may not get proper sunlight or they may not receive the direct rays of sun. Maybe. But the corridors are cold because the emotions of the lady who is passing through this corridor has frozen. Cold corridors that led to the music hall. Girls of all ages. Maybe this is an optional music class. So girls of all classes can attend it. Girls of all ages, rosy from the air and bubbling over with that gleeful excitement that comes from running to school on a fine autumn morning. See, this is a fine autumn morning. So we cannot say that they are rosy because they have felt cold. No, not that. They are rosy because they are feeling easy and pleasant. As the atmosphere was quite favorable, as the surrounding was quite favorable, they were rosy, they were very excited, and they were almost blushing. The Europeans or the Western people, they are very fair complexioned and they have rosy cheeks. Rosy from the air and bubbling. Bubbling means full of excitement, joyous excitement. Bubbling with the gleeful. Gleeful means happy, delightful. Gleeful excitement that comes from running to school on a fine autumn morning. Hurried, skipped, fluttered by. So this is the joyous movements of the children quite contrary to the frustrating, cold despair of the teacher. A bell rang. A voice like a bird cried, "Muriel." So the music teacher had a very sweet voice. Muriel. And then there came from the staircase a tremendous knocking. Someone had dropped her dumbbells. What are dumbbells? The boys must be knowing this. Some of them are very interested in gym and all. So dumbbells are short bars with weight on each and short bars with weight on each ends. And someone has dropped the dumbbells. Do you think there are dumbbells in school? I don't possibly think that, because they were all girls, and generally in girls' school you don't have such gymnasiums, especially for the young children, young girls. They don't use dumbbells because it is said, I have not discovered the authenticity behind this saying, but they say that dumbbells means usage of dumbbells before a certain age does not allow you to grow tall. So dumbbells can never be a part of this kind of school. However, she felt that someone has dropped the dumbbells. Why? Because she's not in a good mood to think something else. She is as if lifting a heavy load of sorrow and despair. And for that reason, maybe she is associating the sound, which is a knocking sound. She is associating this sound with the sound of dropping dumbbells. Children, here is another technique of modernist writing. What is that? Stream of consciousness mode of narration. See, the first paragraph of the story gives you a series of consciousness or emotional ups and downs which the lady is undergoing. The lady is not narrating anything, but as if the narrator is narrating things not from his side, not from her side, but from the lady's side, Miss Meadows' side. The author is not narrating anything. The narrator is not narrating anything. It is Miss Meadows' consciousness that is being narrated one after the other. This kind of narration is called stream of consciousness narration. It is also a free indirect speech. That means this could have been directly said by Miss Meadows. But this is free indirect speech which the author has allowed herself to speak on behalf of the character, on behalf of her stream of consciousness, on behalf of her emotional gestures, emotional outbursts. So though it is narrated by the narrator, it is penned by the author, actually it is the voice of the character herself, Miss Meadows. The science mistress stopped Miss Meadows. "Good morning," she said in her sweet, affected drawl. What is drawl? in a lazy voice. Good morning. Isn't it cold? It might be winter. Dragging the vowel sounds, okay? Isn't it cold? It might be winter. What does this mean? She is referring to the atmosphere, she is referring to the weather to be very cold. And this mistress, science mistress, she is not a very straightforward kind of a lady. See? Miss Meadows hugging the knife. What is hugging the knife? The knife that has already stabbed her. Not the physical knife. The knife of frustration, despair, breaking of an engagement, which has already been stabbed by her fiancé, and which she is hiding because she always wants to keep up to the opinions of others in the society. Okay, we all want to keep up to the opinion of others in the society. Why? Because society matters a great deal for every one of us. That she is heartbroken, that she is rejected, is obviously an emotional ruin, an emotional crisis for her. But the greater crisis is that people will know about it. And this will bring a great disgrace upon her personality. It will bring a great humiliation that a lady has been rejected. Maybe she was not up to the mark. The fiancé has got somebody else who is better than this 30 years old, so-called an elderly woman, while the fiancé is of 25 years. People will say, oh, at last the guy has realized what mistake he was committing. Miss Meadows and that smart boy, oh my God. Thank God there is not another case of Priyanka and Nick Jonas. Oh my God. Fine. The guy has get rid of this old woman. So things like that would be said. We all know. We all say like this also, isn't it? So things like that would be said. She knows it. It's not only limited to Indian society. Just see. Women are criticized all over the world. The gender biased society. See, Miss Meadows, hugging the knife, stared in hatred at the science mistress. Everything about her was sweet, pale, like honey. See, honey, it is very good for health. It is sweet, pale, but it does not have that strong taste of sugar. Okay, so you would not have, like honey, you would not have been surprised to see a bee caught in the tangles of that yellow hair. See? Once again, stream of consciousness. This lady, this science mistress, is quite pretty. She has a nice voice also. She has a sweet voice. She has a blonde hair. And she has tangles in her hair. What is that called? Tangles. Curls. Small curls in her hair. That is marvelous. And see, mark The word used, yellow. It is not golden. She could have used the word golden, but she did not use the word golden or blonde. She has used the word yellow. Yellow, yellow, dirty fellow. Yellow, which means decaying, which does not suggest something impressive. This is not the voice of the author. This is not the voice of the narrator. This is the feeling of disgust which has given the vocabulary to the author. This is the feeling of disgust. Yellow. It is so the Miss Meadows is responding, okay? It is rather sharp, said Miss Meadows grimly. What is grimly? In an apparently humorous manner, but yes, it's rather sharp. She's trying to be cordial, but she's not meaning to be cordial. Her blue eyes opened wide. There came a mocking light in them. Her blue eyes. My God, the science mistress is really beautiful. Aishwarya Rai. Or I don't know, you can name some other Western Hollywood actress. She had blue eyes and they opened wide. And as they opened, there came a mocking light. Mocking means she was trying to humiliate the other person. A shine in her eyes, which was almost humiliating. Do you think a person who is talking about weather, it is very cold, do you think she will be in a mood of mocking the other woman, other teacher, music teacher, who is standing in front of her? I don't think so. It's my opinion. Okay, fine. But I don't specially think that this lady, the science mistress, is in a mood of mocking her. Maybe she is not a quite simple lady. She must be having her own complexities and all. She might be a kind of, who is not very straight in her approach. Maybe she is like that. But I don't think the very first conversation with another teacher, she will be mocking the teacher. And you know, when there is something wrong, when there is something which you want to conceal, you want to hide, you feel that somebody has noticed it. See the bracketed portion. Has she noticed anything? What will she notice? What will the science teacher notice? Her pale face. And that might happen for any other cause also. Maybe her tummy is upset. She has run to the loo for 10 times since morning. But no. This lady who is suffering from a broken engagement, she will always think, no, people are noticing me and they have understood I have gone through an emotional crisis, emotional wreckage. Had she noticed anything? See, this is also narrated by the narrator, but she is narrating on behalf of the character. Stream of consciousness. Oh, not quite as bad as that, said Miss Meadows. And she gave the science mistress, in exchange for a smile, a quick grimace and passed on. What is grimace? A sneer. She made a face and passed on. No, it's not quite bad. It's fine weather. The weather is fine. Why did she pass on? She did not want this X-ray eyes to go through her entire system. She was quite embarrassed Maybe she is having some X-ray eyes and noticing all that is happening within her. Forms 4, 5 and 6 were assembled. Forms means these are standard 1, standard 2 is there, class 1, class 2. These are forms 4, 5 and 6 were assembled in the music hall. The noise was deafening. Deafening means very loud. On the platform, there's a raised platform where the piano is there and the music teacher, maybe she stands over there. On the raised platform stood Mary Bisley. Who is this Mary Bisley? This Mary Bisley is the one who is maybe the favorite of the teacher. Or who is favorite? Why favorite of the teacher? Because she takes the classes properly. She maybe helps the teacher to conduct the class. Maybe she is a part of the senior singing group. Anything can be possible. So, this Mary Bisley, Miss Meadows' favorite, who played accompaniments. Accompaniments means the other musical instruments. She was turning the music stool when she saw Miss Meadows. She gave a loud warning. See, just notice, she is the kind of monitor. Loud warning. She gave a loud warning. Okay. She gave a loud warning. Shh, girls! And Miss Meadows, her hands thrust in her sleeves, the baton under her arm, strode down the center aisle, mounted the steps, turned sharply, seized the brass music stand. Just mark the repetition of S sound. Sharply seized brass music stand. Shh. S sound. Shh. There is something she want to hush. She want to keep secret. So this is poetic prose. Okay. Seized the brass music stand, planted it in front of her, and gave two sharp taps with her baton for silence. Silence, please, immediately. And looking at nobody, her glance swept over the sea of colored flannel blouses. See, when I enter your class, I look at every one of you. And there is a non-verbal communication between the students and me. I can well understand there is a non-verbal communication between the students and myself. Even the students can recognize in what mood the teacher is, and I also recognize how the students have responded. It is a non-verbal communication. It happens within a spark of a few seconds, but it happens. And we both connect with one another in that way. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood, and that non-verbal communication reaches you and connects you in that way. You realize, ma'am is not in a very good mood today. So here also, Miss Meadows is otherwise a very favorite teacher of the students. But that she is not in a good mood today is at once reciprocated. See? Over the sea of colored flannel blouses means the students are in large numbers and they are in the same uniform, and they seem to be a sea, a continuous wave of colored blouses with bobbing pink faces and hands. Bobbing means tossing. Quivering butterfly bows. So they have butterfly hair bows, sorry. So they have one hair bows which are like butterflies. Okay. And they are quivering, means they are trembling. As the children are nodding their heads, the butterflies are also moving to and fro on their hair. She knew butterfly hair bows and music books outspread. She knew perfectly well what they were thinking. See, she's always conscious, always conscious. We can at once come to a conclusion that this lady is somehow very complicated. And she is conscious about the opinions of others much more than what she is feeling herself. Generally, people are like that. We all are like that. But she is a bit more than what people are generally. She's always concerned about everyone's opinion. See, she was concerned about the science mistress's opinion. Now she is concerned about the children's opinion. And she feels that they are thinking Meady is in a max. What is Meady? Meady is Miss Meadows' short form. We always name teachers like that, isn't it? Meady is in a wax. What does that mean? That means that Miss Meadows is upset or she is angry. This is modern slang. In a wax. This phrase is a modern slang. Meady is in a wax. Well, let them think it. Her eyelids quivered. So, for the science mistress, she did not feel like that. She was very conscious and she just quite escaped from her glances. But now with the children, maybe she has some kind of a comfort zone. She's not that bothered what the children are thinking about. Her eyelids quivered. That means she is nervous. She is not confident like she used to be in the other days. She tossed her head, defying them. What could the thoughts of those creatures matter to someone who stood there bleeding to death? That means she had taken the love affair quite seriously. It's not like modern love affairs. Whoever takes love affairs seriously go through the same kind of emotional crisis. It is like bleeding to death. Okay. And don't take love affairs seriously. Children, you have a long way to go. And there are many girls and boys around. If someone goes away from your life, don't think that it is bleeding you to death. Some new person will always come. Jokes apart, who stood there bleeding to death, pierced to the heart by such a letter. The letter is like a knife. What letter? We don't know. See, the letter has been quoted now. I feel more and more strongly that a marriage would be a mistake. Not that I do not love you. I love you so much as it is possible for me to love any woman. But truth to tell, I have come to the conclusion that I am not a marrying man. See, marrying man. And the idea of settling down fills me with nothing but, and the word disgust. The idea of settling down fills me with nothing but disgust. He had written this, the lover had written this letter and he had used the word disgust. He had scratched the word in such a way that Miss Meadows could easily read it. And instead of disgust, he has written regret over the top. He has scratched the word and written regret over the top. And he has scratched the word in such a way that it could be read. This means two things. One, he deliberately wanted Miss Meadows to know that she is disgusting. Settling with her means a kind of disgust for him. Secondly, he is very casual to the extent of being callous. Do you know what is the meaning of callous? When you are not concerned about the feeling of others, you are callous. So this man is a man who does not want to enter into any kind of commitment. Why doesn't he want to enter into any kind of commitment? He has commitment phobia. See, this kind of words are very modern. And this lady, so long ago, she had conceived that there are people like that. Today, our psychologists, our psychiatrists, they have come by this kind of words. Commitment phobia and all. But people long ago who could read and judge human nature, the nature of mankind, humankind, they are universal and they knew so much. That is why they are called God-gifted. So, Basil. Who is Basil? The lover's name is Basil. Basil, Miss Meadows talked over to the piano, and Mary Beasley, who was waiting for this moment, bent forward. Her curls fell over her cheeks while she breathed. See, Mary Beasley is the favorite one, and she is the very, not only favorite, pet. Miss Meadows' pet. Every day she presents this music teacher with a chrysanthemum, and the music teacher accepts it with utter gladness. And this is a kind of regular reciprocation of the teacher and the student. Good morning, Miss Meadows. And she mounted towards, motioned towards, rather than handed to her mistress, a beautiful yellow chrysanthemum. You know what is the symbol of chrysanthemum? Yellow chrysanthemum. It symbolizes optimism and joy. Optimism and joy. So maybe she was trying to see, at this situation is very symbolic, that while the lady was going through an emotional wreckage, this little girl, this student of hers, wanted to give her some some positive thoughts, which she ignored. This is a symbolic representation. You can accept it or you may not. You can ignore it. But I feel this is a kind of symbolic interpretation. The little ritual of the flower had been gone through for ages and ages. Quite a term and a half. 1.5 years, or maybe term means 6 months and a half. It was as much the part of the lesson as opening the piano. It was a regular activity. But this morning, instead of tucking it into her belt, while she leaned over Mary and said, "Thank you, Mary. How are you? Nice. Turn to page 32. Sorry, how very nice. Turn to page 32. What was Mary's horror when Miss Meadows totally ignored the chrysanthemum, made no reply to her greeting, but said in a voice of ice, page 14. Oh, earlier she used to say like this, "Thank you, Mary. How very nice. Turn to page 32. Earlier she used to say like this. But today, how did she react? How did she respond? In a voice of ice. Emotionless voice. Page 14, please. And mark the accents well. Staggering moment. What is this staggering moment? This is a moment when this child, what is her name? Mary Bisley. When the child cannot reconcile with the teacher's reaction. She was emotionally staggering. Staggering means she could not stand on her feet. Physically she could stand, but emotionally as if she was falling down. It was a staggering moment. Once again, notice the stream of consciousness. Now the narrator's shift is on this child. The narrator is narrating on behalf of this child. The narrator is narrating on behalf of this child. This is a staggering moment for the child. Mary blushed in embarrassment, okay? Mary blushed until the tears stood in her eyes. But Miss Meadows was gone back to the music stand. Her voice rang through the music hall. Page 14. We will begin with page 14. A lament. Lament means it is a piece of music, sorrowful, which is sorrowful. A lament. Now, girls, you ought to know it by this time. We shall take it all together. Not in parts, all together. And without expression. First you need to pick up the notes. Then we will give expression. All together. Sing it. Though quite simply, beating time with the left hand. So, beating time is what we call tal. Beat. So, one has to beat time with the left hand in the air. And just sing. One has to pick up the notes, the tempo, the beats, the rhythm. But without expression. Because when you go for the expression, what happens? The musical intricacies are lost. So first pick up the musical intricacies and then you will go for the expression. Sometimes when you have seen the reality shows, the judges, they give you suggestions to take notice of the musical perfections and then go to the expressions. Sometimes there is no expression in the song, but often it is so said that you were so overwhelmed with the expression of the song that you missed certain musical perfections. They say like that, isn't it? So here the teacher wants them to pick up the musical perfections first and then they will go for the expressions. She raised the baton. She tapped the music stand twice. Down came Mary on the opening chord. Down came all those left hands beating the air. And in chimed means sang, those young mournful voices, because this is a sad song. Fast, too fast, fed the roses of pleasure. Soon autumn yields into winter drear. Flitty, hey flitty, music's gay measure passes away from the listening ear. Good heavens! What could be more tragic than that lament? Every note was a sigh, an expression of grief, a sob, a groan. or awful mournfulness. It was in true sense a lament. Very sad song. Miss Meadows lifted her arms in the wide gown and began conducting with both hands. I feel more and more strongly, see? And once again notice how music is related to our lives. A sad music and a sad story. And while the music is going on, there is no linear sequence. Past and present are mingled. There is no linear sequence. See, the song is in present, but the thoughts are of something past, something that has happened in past. Every note was a sigh, a sob, okay? We began conducting with, I feel more and more strongly, while the music is going on, where the sad notes are going on, I feel more and more strongly that our marriage would be a mistake. Oh my God. Children, you are very young. I don't think you have gone through this kind of emotions. When somebody whom you love, heart and soul, rejects you, it is a tremendous sorrow for any person. See, suicides are committed and all. The person you love the most, for whom you can do anything on this earth, that very person is rejecting you. And the lady, though she is in 30, she is rather behaving like the teenagers. Maybe this is the effect of being with the children for long years. But that has not happened with the science mistress. I don't know. Maybe she is closely associated. Maybe she is herself psychologically very young, soft-natured. Okay. I feel more and more strongly that our marriage would be a mistake. She bait, and the voices cried, Fleety, oh Fleety. Fleety means which passes away quickly. What could have possessed him to write such a letter? She's singing the lament and she's feeling like this. What could have possessed him? Possessed means something supernatural has taken hold over him. Okay. To write such a letter, what could have led up to it? It came out of nothing. No quarrel, no fights, no arguments. So how come this letter came? It came out of nothing. His last letter had been all about a fumed oak bookcase he had bought for our books and a natty little hall stand. See, natty little hall stand. What is natty? Smart and fashionable, well designed. The natty little hall stand he has seen. A very neat affair. Affair means a neat piece of work. With a carved owl on a bracket, holding 3 hat brushes in its claws. See, this is once again quoted. That means it was the content of his previous letter. After that, this horrendous letter came. In the previous letter only, he was talking how they would set up their house, decorate their house. And in that, he has mentioned a hall stand having 3 holders. That means husband, wife and a child. So they have already planned for a child. And now a letter comes out of nothing, out of the blue, that there will be a breakup. How she had smiled at that. So like a man to think one needed 3 hat brushes. So like a man, because he is the man of the house. So he has already planned for a child, okay. And see, this lady sounds very typically timid, Humble lady, isn't it? Though she is she is older than the man. She is older than the man. She is not a bossy. Rather, this man is dictating things. From the so like a man to think one needed 3 hat brushes. From the listening ear sang the voices. Once again said Miss Meadows, but this time in parts. Still without expression, fast or too fast, with the gloom of the contraltos added. What are contraltos? The lowest female singing voice, the lower notes. One could scarcely help shuddering. Why shuddering? Shuddering means trembling. Why? One will get goosebumps, Why? Because the music is so very sorrowful. It will almost give you a quiver. Fade the roses of pleasure. Last time he had come to see her, Basil had worn a rose in his buttonhole. Excuse me. Buttonhole. Okay. How handsome he had looked in that bright blue suit with the dark red rose, and he knew it too. The man is conscious, Yes, he is very conscious that he is handsome. He is physically more superior looking. Okay. He couldn't help knowing it. First he stroked his hair, then his moustache, his teeth gleamed when he smiled. I feel, you may not feel this way. The man is immature. He is fickle-minded. He has not that depth of character which is required to understand Miss Meadows. She is more serious regarding the relationship, regarding her feelings for the person. This man, I don't think, even if they get married, the thing will last. So he is acting like a grown-up adult. Sorry, a young adult, not a grown-up adult, a young adult. He is acting like that. Then his moustache, his teeth gleamed when he smiled. The headmaster's wife keeps on asking me to dinner. It's a perfect nuisance. I never get an evening to myself in that place. But can't you refuse? Oh well, it doesn't do for a man in any position to be unpopular. See, just go through the conversation. Headmaster's wife keep on asking me to dinner. I don't like to go over there. I never get an evening to myself. So why don't you refuse? Because I don't want to become unpopular. If I refuse, people may speak bad about me. Music's gay measure once again. See, the linear sequence is not followed. Music's gay measure wailed the voices. The willow trees outside the high narrow windows waved in the wind. They had lost half their leaves. Do you know there is a symbolic meaning? But the willow trees, you have read it in Merchant of Venice. The lady, what was her name? Dido. She was waving willow branches. See, willow trees weeping willows. There is a term called weeping willows, and they are symbolic of sorrow. When the Israelites were taken as slaves, they used to sit and weep, and that was connected with the willow trees, something like that. They are called weeping willows. So the willow trees specifically here symbolizes maybe sorrow that the lady is going through. The willow trees outside the high narrow windows waved in the wind. They had lost half their leaves. The tiny one that clung wriggled like fishes caught on a line. Okay, that means, see, half the leaves are not there in the trees. The tiny leaf that clung to the willow tree, it was wriggling like fishes caught on a line. Line means it's a kind of instrument to catch fishes. There is kind of sticky substance on this instrument, and when the fishes come near it, they get stuck to the instrument and they are pulled out of water. And even if they wriggle at that time, they cannot escape. The leaves were also just wriggling. And the same wriggling sense was going within the lady's character. The same wriggling sense was being experienced by the lady as well. And as she was reminiscing the words, "I am not a marrying man," the voices went silent, the piano waited. "Quite good," said Miss Meadows, but still in such a strange tone that the young girls began to feel positively frightened. Why? Because the lady is not like that, usually. But now that we know it, we shall take it with expression. As much expression as you can put into it. Think of the words, girls. Use your imagination. "Fast, too fast," cried Miss Meadows. "That ought to break out. A loud, strong forte, a lament." I don't know how it would sound. Forte means outburst. "Fast, too fast." Maybe like this, I don't know. And then in the second line, "winter drear." Make the drear sound as if a cold wind were blowing through it. "Drear," she said she so awfully that Mary Beasley on the music stool wriggled her spine. A chill ran down her spine. The third line would be one crescendo. What is crescendo? Gradual increasing in loudness is called crescendo. Crescendo. Fleety music's gay measure, breaking on the first word of the last line, passes, and then on the word away. You must begin to die. Die means fade away. To fade until the listening ear is nothing more than a faint whisper. You can slow down as much as you like, almost on the last line. Now please. Again the two light taps. She lifted her arms again, fast, too fast. And the idea of settling down fills me. See, once again the letter comes in her mind. Settling down fills me with nothing but disgust. Disgust was what he had written. That was as good as to say their engagement was definitely broken off. Broken off. Their engagement. People had been surprised enough that she had got engaged. The science mistress would not believe it at first. But nobody had been as surprised as she was. She was means Miss Meadows was herself very much surprised. The science mistress was surprised. Okay. She was 30. Basil was 25. It had been a miracle, simply a miracle to hear him say, as they walked home from church that very dark night, "You know, somehow or other, I have got fond of you." Who said this? Her lover. And he had taken hold of the end of her ostrich feather boa. What is feather boa? This is a kind of, see, I have given you the meaning. A thin decorative scarf made of feathers or similar material, worn by women. So it was made of ostrich feather. And she had taken hold of the end of the bow. Now again the music comes. Passes away from the listening ear. Repeat, said Miss Meadows. More expression, girls, once more. Fast, too fast. The older girls were crimson. They were red with the sorrow of the song. Some of the younger ones began to cry. Big spots of rain blew against the windows, and one could hear the willows whispering, "Not that I do not love you, but my darling, if you love me," thought Miss Meadows, I don't mind how much it is. Love me as little as you like." See? You can love me as little as you like, but don't reject me. Why? Why am I such a person of disgrace that you can love me as little as you like, but I will be with you forever? That means public opinion matters to Miss Meadows more than the kind of love and affection she gets from her lover, from her husband rather, in course of time. It does not matter whether he loves her entirely, completely. It does not matter. But at least if he loves her, let them get married. At least people will not talk something wrong about them. And once again, this is the pressure of the society on a woman. A woman has to receive the stigmas of the society. She has to receive the abuses of the society when a relationship fails. But she knew he didn't love her, not to have cared enough to scratch out the word disgust so that she couldn't read it. Soon autumn yields into winter drear. Once again the music enters into the feeling, and the effect of music and the feeling she has is combining themselves into a wholesome one. Emotion and music combining itself into one tempo. She would have to leave the school too. Why? Once again, public opinion. She could never face the science mistress or the girls after it got known. She would have to disappear somewhere, passes away. See? He pass away. The voices began to die, to fade, to whisper. She will have to fade. Maybe she is contemplating suicide, I don't know. She will have to fade, she will have to vanish. Suddenly the door opened. A little girl in blue walked fussily up the aisle, hanging her head, biting her lips and twisting the silver bangle on her red little wrist. She came up the steps and stood before Miss Meadows. "Well, Monica, what is it?" "Oh, if you please, Miss Meadows," said the little girl, gasping, almost breathless. "Miss Watt wants to see you in the mistress's room." "Very well," said Miss Meadows, and she called to the girls. "I shall put you on your honor to talk quietly while I'm away." Put you on your honor means it is up to you to keep up the honor which I am giving you. That you will speak, you will talk, but quietly. Speak quietly while I am away. but they were so subdued. Subdued means though emotionally suppressed to anything else. Most of them were blowing their noses. Why? Because of the song, the sorrowful song, as well as the attitude of their otherwise music teacher. The corridors were silent and cold. They echoed to Miss Meadows' steps. The headmistress sat at her desk. For a moment she did not look up. She was, as usual, disentangling her eyeglasses, which had got caught in her lace tie. Maybe there was a kind of lace tie she was wearing, and her eyeglasses was caught in them. "Sit down, Miss Meadows," she said very kindly, and then she picked up a pink envelope from the blotting pad. "I sent for you now because the telegram has come for you." "A telegram for me, Miss What?" "Basil!" Now see, within a span of a moment, she has began to think something odd. "Basil, he had committed suicide," decided Miss Meadows. Her hand flew out, but Miss Watt held the telegram back a moment. "I hope it's not bad news," she said. More than kindly, and she said, "So more than kindly." She was very cordial. "I hope that it's not bad news." And Miss Meadows tore it open. "Pay no attention to the seat. I told you, this boy is fickle-minded. I don't think their marriage will last long. If it happens, I don't think it will happen also. Once more, this man will say goodbye, and then he will return. Then he will say goodbye, and he will return. He has taken Miss Meadows for granted. Children, don't let yourself be taken for granted. I do hope it's nothing very serious," said Miss. "Okay. Oh no, thank you, Miss Watt," blushed Miss Meadows. "It's nothing bad at all. And she gave an apologetic little laugh. "It's from her fiancé saying that. So what has Basil written? Pay no attention to letter. Must have been mad. Bought a hat stand today. Basil. Hat stand. To keep 3 hats once again, I suppose. 3 hats. And this lady is blushing. This time not out of embarrassment. She's very happy. It's from my fiancé saying that. And Miss Watt understood that what he was saying could not be mentioned. And another pause then. "You have 15 minutes more to your class, Miss Meadows, haven't you?" "Yes, Miss Watt." She got up. She ran half towards the door. "Oh, just 1 minute, Miss Meadows," said Miss Watt. "I must say I don't approve of my teachers having telegraphs sent to them in school hours, unless in case of very bad news." Now she is so angry. She cannot abuse, but she is almost on the verge of it, the principal. "Very bad news, such as death," explained Miss Watt, "or a very serious accident or something to that effect. Good news, Miss Meadows, will always keep, on the wings of hope, of love, of joy." Miss Meadows sped back to the music hall. This time the corridors are not cold. Children mark it. Up the L, up the steps, over to the piano. Page 32, that page 32 which had been mentioned before. "Mary," she said, "page 32, and picking up the yellow chrysanthemum, that hope once more." So we always live on the chrysanthemum of hopes. Yellow chrysanthemum, she held it to her lips to hide her smile. Then she turned to the girls, rapped her baton. "Page 32, girls, page 32. We come here today with flowers o'erladen, with baskets of fruits and ribbon to boot, to congratulate. Stop, stop, cried Miss Meadows. It's so awful. The children were at all these times under the impression of this sad song and the strict, cold, stony attitude of the teacher. How come they will just move from one phase to another so quickly? They cannot reconcile with this teacher and the teacher for a few moments ago. And the song also, cried Miss Meadows. This is awful, this is dreadful, and she beamed at her girls. What is the matter with you all? Think, girls, think of what you are singing. Use your imaginations. With flowers overladen, baskets of fruits and ribbons to boot, and congratulate. Miss Meadows broke off. Don't look so doleful, girls. Doleful means sad. It ought to sound warm, joyful, eager. Congratulate. Once more, quickly. All together. Now, then. See, this is the loving, caring teacher of theirs. And this time, Miss Meadows' voice sounded over all the other voices, full, deep, glowing with expression. This time she has not broken the song into parts. See, the story has a very simple plot. A very, very simple plot with no twist, surprise ending or any kind of complexities. But there is complexity or twist in the interiority of the character, interiority of human psyche, human emotions. So this lady is a lady who is hungry for love. She has loved a man so dearly, that his ignorance, his manner of taking her for granted does not matter. She is biased. She is more conscious about the opinion of others. Opinion of the society matters much. And at the same time, do you call her, can we not call her, she is going through inferiority complex. Yes, she has a kind of inferiority complex as well, as I think. Because she feels that if the man rejects her, people will call her inferior. She is inferior. That is why the man will reject her. And if you feel like this, so you will think the society feels like this. Whatever we feel, others are feeling in the same way. So this is the interiority, the twist in our interior character. Okay. So, please go through the story, go through the meanings that I will give you. And at the same time, please go through the audio explanation. If you have any problem, please feel free to ask me over WhatsApp. Thank you, children, and I miss you.